Hi, my name is Naomi Harding, and today I will be discussing the effects of sleep deprivation and how fatigue, if left untreated, can cause anxiety and depression. As a biology major, my familiarity with the human body has provided me with a vast background into how sleep is directly influencing our brains. In my studies, I have learned that abnormal sleep patterns, or insomnia, causes abnormalities within the brain's natural processing centers. To become familiar with how sleep deprivation causes abnormalities within the brain, we will cover three topics: fatigue, anxiety, and depression. To first understand how the brain is affected by sleep deprivation, we must first take a look into how the brain is structured. The brain is a complex organ that controls all of the processes within our body. So here on the screen we have a general overall view of the brain. This is the outer surface of the brain, and each color represents a lobe. Each lobe has a specific set of functions, and for our purposes we are interested in the frontal lobe shown here in blue. And directly under the frontal lobe is where you would see the eyes oriented. So, as I said, each lobe has a specific function, and the frontal lobe's function is that of language production, skeletal motor movement, planning, concentration, and reasoning. As we look further into the brain, we are able to see some of the internal structures, as well as the brainstem. The brainstem is shown here posteriorly. Also, notice all of the area in blue as an interconnected structure. They are individual structures that are interconnected. The areas in blue are referred to as the limbic system, or commonly the emotional brain, because its specific role in regulating mood. The limbic system sends a signal to the adrenal cortex, an organ that sits on top of the kidneys. Normally, the adrenal cortex sends cortisol out into the body, and cortisol eventually will make its way back to the brain, to the area in blue that we just seen. When it comes back to the area in blue, it's going to regulate mood. In a normally functioning person with normal amounts of cortisol, this mechanism will act as a cortisol feedback loop necessary for regulating many processes throughout the body. However, when an individual is not sleeping enough, the cortisol concentrations within the body increase. Increased cortisol concentrations within the body can damage the area in blue, the emotional brain, that we've seen earlier. This increase in cortisol damages that area of the brain, the limbic system, or the emotional brain, so it can alter the mood, which we will discuss momentarily. Sleep deprivation is the leading cause of feeling fatigued. To prevent fatigue, you need at least 8 hours of sleep per night. As you have probably heard from professors before, don't stay up cramming the night before the exam. Make sure you get some sleep. As well as other research has shown that decreased sleep decreases overall performance and is a cause for all third of automobile-related accidents. Be aware of your body's need for sleep. Some people don't necessarily need a full 8 hours of sleep. Some people find that 6 hours of sleep is sufficient. As a general rule of thumb, you want between 6 and 8 hours of sleep per night, every night. If you are having trouble falling asleep, watch your caffeine intake. Chances are you are drinking coffee, tea, and other sodas throughout the day, increasing your overall caffeine levels. You want to stop drinking caffeine about 6 hours before bedtime, because caffeine is a stimulant that keeps the brain awake. If decreasing your caffeine intake does not help you, you may consider supplementing over-the-counter supplements. Chamomile tea, for example, or lavender-scented body oils can help as a relaxant. If still no relief, as a last resort, you may try sleep aids. However, there is a higher risk of abuse with sleep aids versus herbal remedies. And just as an aside note, if you are currently taking any medications prescribed by a physician, you would want to consult with them prior to taking any herbal or over-the-counter medications. Although trying to dedicate so much time and effort into sleeping may seem excessive, it may prevent some unwanted psychological side effects. As we said earlier, the excessive cortisol acts on the limbic system. If fatigue is left untreated, it can cause psychological disorders. We have all had interactions with sleep-deprived individuals. They are less tolerant and a highly agitated state. To say that they are moody is an understatement. They have an overall inability to cope with the daily stressors of life when sleep deprived. There are several forms of anxiety, most of which we are all familiar with, be it sweaty palms, shortness of breath, palpitations of chest. It can all lead to a full-blown panic attack, which can be very disruptive to a person's quality of daily life. Another psychological manifestation of fatigue is depression. And I'm sure all of us have had some interactions with someone that has been depressed, or maybe even have felt depressed ourselves at some point in time of life. But the seriousness is that depression causes 30,000 plus suicides per year in the United States alone. So in conclusion, making time for adequate sleep is necessary for a good quality of life. You should make a conscientious effort to get between 6 and 8 hours of sleep per night, every night. After listening to how the functioning of the brain is diminished by a lack of sleep, I hope that you have a better understanding as to how to avoid fatigue, decrease your anxiety levels, and reduce chances of developing depression. Keep your body well rested if you want to do your best and feel your best. Thank you for watching.
Further review